How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the Thinking Blue podcast. I'm your host, Blake Harris. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the past series against the Yankees and if it's time to panic or if the Dodgers should be worried come October. If you haven't yet, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Blake Harris, TBLA, where I post a lot of great Dodgers content. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Turn on those notifications so you never miss a podcast or another video. Now, before we get to the weekend series against the Yankees, I'm going to briefly talk about last night's loss to the Padres. Now, the Dodgers, they fell to the Padres last night 4-3, and it was an overall just kind of ugly and forgetful game for the Dodgers. Dustin May, he got the start. He took the loss. Now, you look at the box score and you're going to see that Dustin May got, tacked on for a few runs. Only 2 earned runs, though he allowed 4 runs. And for the most part, it was because of a really bad defensive 6th inning. But going to the positives first, he was great through the first 5 innings. It seems like we've been saying that a lot about Dustin May in his starts, where he's great through the first 5 or so innings, then one bad inning kind of throws everything apart. But he was great through the first 5 innings, allowed only 1 hit. He was looking good out there on the mound. I was really impressed with Dustin May early on, but as I mentioned, things really fell apart from him in the 6th inning. He allowed those 2 leadoff hits, and then he allowed a single. And there was a weird play between A.J. Pollock and Justin Turner where A.J. Pollock, he just fielded, the routine grounder in center and just threw a routine, just lob into third base for Justin Turner. And somehow the ball went under Justin Turner's glove, went into the dugout, and allowed all the runners to advance. It brought in the tie-in run, made the runner go from first to third, who then he ultimately came in to score on a ground out the next at bat to give the Padres the lead. But that little string right there, it completely changed the outcourse of the game. If that ball gets into Justin Turner, then all of a sudden the Padres are only down a run with runners on first and second, and then maybe Dustin May's able to get out of it, and he exits the game with the lead still, and it changes the whole game for the Dodgers. But yeah, so it was a rough 6th inning. Dustin May ends up getting the loss. As I mentioned, he only had 2 earned runs, though, so 2 of his other runs weren't earned. But you just really hate to see it for Dustin May because, like I said, those first 5 innings were so good. It's a shame that 6th inning kind of got away from him. Now, I mentioned this as well, where it seems like Dustin May in all of his outings, he just has kind of one blow-up inning. I mean, his first start against the Padres, he was great through his first, 5 innings as well. Then that 6th inning, things kind of fell apart. He allowed a few runs. Going back to that Atlanta outing last week when he came out of the bullpen, he allowed the grand slam. But his other, 2 innings that he pitched, he was really good. So with Dustin May, I really want to start seeing better consistency out of him. Yeah, he's only 21. I think he's only appeared in, 4 games now, maybe 5 games. So he still has a lot of experience to get under his belt. But with Dustin May, it's just finishing the game off, finishing the hitters off. I remember in his game against the Braves, he got ahead in the count to the first 3 batters that he allowed to reach base. He just couldn't finish those guys off. So Dustin May, I've liked what I've seen so far, but he just needs to get better at finishing off hitters, finishing off the innings, and avoiding these kind of blow-up innings that he's pretty much had in almost all of his starts. But now going over to the offense, it was a very forgetful night for the offense as well. They were too reliant on the home runs last night. Justin Turner and Kike Hernandez both hit home runs, but aside from that, the offense could get nothing. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They left 9 runners on base. And it's something that we haven't really seen so far this season in regards to the Dodgers struggling like this with runners on and with 2 outs and whatnot. Now, we've kind of seen the Dodgers have offensive slumps this season, but we haven't really seen them over the course of at least these last 4 games struggle with runners in scoring position. Now, I saw someone tweet this at me last night. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but over their last 4 games, there's something like, I want to say 5 for 35 or something like that with runners in scoring position. They've had their opportunities. They just can't get the job done. Now, this entire season, that's been one of the reasons the Dodgers have been so successful this year, especially compared to years past, where the Dodgers are one of the better teams in all of baseball with hitting with runners in scoring position and hitting with 2 outs. So the Dodgers have really struggled with that the last few games, especially last night. They had the bases loaded twice, couldn't get anything going. They had runners on in the first inning, couldn't get anything going like that as well. So, every team goes through offensive slumps, so it's nothing really to be too worried about. I'm not too worried about the Dodgers not scoring runs. You can't expect them to score 6 runs a game because I think they're currently leading the league with, 5.5 runs per game. So they're not going to be scoring 5 runs every game. An offensive slump's bound to happen, but hopefully they can snap out of it because, they scored 16 runs in a game last week against Toronto, but ever since then, in their 6 games since, they've only scored 13 runs. So over the last week, they're averaging only 2 runs a game. No matter how good your pitching is, you're not going to win a whole lot of games when your offense is scoring only 2 runs. So hopefully the Dodgers offense can get out of their slump tonight and start to turn things around. But with that being said, let's go now to the Yankees series because that's what a lot of people are concerned the most about. It's the first time the Yankees have been in LA for, I think it was 6 years. I think they were last here in 2013. So anytime the Yankees get to play the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, it's a really special time. I'm really bummed that I couldn't get to be there for it. I mean, of course, I'm home in LA literally from the middle of April until about the middle of August, and I miss the best series of the season. But the Dodgers, they lose 2 out of 3. Now, before I get to the series, I just want to quickly touch up on these awful player weekend uniforms. MLB, I hope this is the last time you ever go with this half white, half black type thing. I know I'm not the only one that thought this, but man, those uniforms were awful. I absolutely hated the all white. The black I kind of liked because at least they outlined the numbers and the letters with white so you can at least read them. But you couldn't read anything on the back of these jerseys, so hopefully next year they go back to what they've been doing the last few years. I really like those colorful ones. I think the players like those colorful ones better. I know the managers definitely didn't like them. So the player uniforms, MLB, if you're listening, please change those uniforms because those were awful, and I never want to see those again. So yeah, that was the highlight of the weekend for me, those awful player uniforms. But yeah, the highlight of the weekend was the fact that the Dodgers lost the series. I know Dodgers Twitter was, in flames over it, saying that the Dodgers have no chance in the World Series if they were to play the Yankees, but I'm one of those people that's not gonna get too ahead of myself, not gonna hit the panic button quite yet. But it was a very concerning series for the Dodgers. It didn't go as I had hoped. I'm sure it didn't go as hoped for a lot of Dodger players and fans. But overall, nothing to panic about quite yet. We're gonna go to Friday right now. Now, who would have thought after the series, if you're gonna say the pitcher who would have had the worst performance in the 3-game series would have been Hyun-Jin Ryu. Now, Ryu, he had one of his worst outings of the season, probably one of the more forgetful outings of his career. He allowed 7 runs. His ERA now sits at only 2.00. But it was overall just a very rough outing for Hyun-Jin Ryu. He allowed 9 hits, did strike out 7, only 1 walk, but it was the home run that killed him. He allowed 3 home runs, and he couldn't even make it, 5 innings. He had to get taken out after 4 1/3, so Hyun-Jin Ryu, it was a very, discouraging outing, mainly because you want to see Hyun-Jin do well against the teams he's likely going to be facing in October. So the fact that the Yankees were able to light him up for 7 runs, I think that's a bit concerning, but I think I talked about this last week when Ryu allowed 4 or 3 runs in Atlanta. He's bound to have one bad start of season. Now, I'm not going to take the Colorado start into account because anything can happen in Coors Field, so I think this is arguably his worst outing of the season. So he allowed 7 runs. That's not ideal for any starting pitcher, but as I mentioned, every starting pitcher is bound to have one start a year or two where things just aren't going their way, and although, the Yankees didn't score until the 3rd inning, Hyun-Jin just looked like he didn't have his normal stuff. He looked like he was struggling in those first few innings, and the Yankees were able to take advantage of it. So hopefully for Hyun-Jin, he can bounce back from this. Now, I think the Dodgers were talking about potentially limiting his innings moving forward. Not sure if it's a result of this start or if they just want to be cautious with him, heading into October. So I'm honestly not going to be shocked if we don't see Hyun-Jin make more than 3 starts the rest of the season, because he's the guy you want to be healthy come October. You want to make sure that everything's going right for him. So for Hyun-Jin, maybe taking another 10-day IL stint might be good for him, depending on what he feels, what he wants. But yeah, for Hyun-Jin, hopefully he can bounce back from this. But even then, the Dodgers offense gave him no help whatsoever. They only scored 2 runs, only had 6 hits. They left 5 runners on base, 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And yeah, Hyun-Jin could have allowed 5 runs, but it wouldn't have been good enough because the offense was quiet yet again. And this is going to be a reoccurring theme as I talk about the rest of the games in this series about the offense being quiet. But heading over now to Saturday, we got a much better starting pitching performance from the Dodgers, and that was Tony Gonsolin, who, my goodness, I have been impressed with him. He threw 5 innings, allowed only 2 hits, 1 earned run. The 1 run came on a home run. So Tony Gonsolin, I thought he looked fantastic. That could be really intimidating on, Saturday afternoon on national television, having to go against the New York Yankees, but it looked like it didn't faze him whatsoever. He was fantastic, and he just continues to impress. I mean, essentially, if you take out that one first inning in Arizona for his debut, I don't know what the numbers would be, but I feel like his ERA since then is probably about 1.5 or so, because his ERA on the season is only 2.74, and he doesn't have a lot of innings under his belt. But Tony Gonsolin, another great outing from him. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. I'm very interested to see what the Dodgers do with him moving forward, because he's just kind of one of those guys where, is he going to be a starting pitcher? Are they going to want to take him out of the bullpen? I think Tony Gonsolin would be a great bullpen piece come October. It's just a matter of, can he build those innings? Can he build the confidence? Do the Dodgers like what they see in him enough? But a very impressive outing from Tony Gonsolin. And he wasn't the only Dodger pitcher who had a very impressive outing on the mound. Joe Kelly, he came in for 1 2/3 innings, struck out 2, allowed only 1 hit, no earned runs. His ERA since, like the middle of May or end of May or so is like 1.4 now. I mean, he has completely turned things around. His ERA is almost under 4 on the season, which didn't seem possible a few months ago. So Joe Kelly, he's got confidence now within all Dodgers fans and Dave Robertson and all the coaches, where he's the go-to guy out of the pen, and I'm very impressed, and it was great to see him have that outing. Pedro Baez came in 1 1/3 innings. He struck out 3 of the batters that he faced. He looked really good. Now, moving to Kenley Jansen, because this is where things almost got really ugly. After getting Didi Gregorius to strike out to lead the inning, he allowed back-to-back singles, and then a fielder's choice loaded the bases. It was a weird play. Brett Gardner slid into second. He kind of took out Max Muncy a bit, and everyone was kind of just standing around. And Gleyber Torres came in to score, but I guess Kenley called a timeout before, so the run didn't count. The game wasn't tied. There was a whole 10-minute protest type thing going on between the Yankees dugout with Aaron Boone. It was really a confusing play right there, because Max Muncy was kind of laying on the ground, not being dramatic, but he did come out and say that he was kind of laying around there for a bit just to stall time, but it was a weird play. But the bases were then loaded, and it looked like it was about to completely implode for Kenley Jansen. However, he did get 2 strikeouts to end the game, and the Dodgers ended up winning. So luckily for Kenley, he was able to escape the jam. If Kenley would have lost the game, I can't imagine what that would have been like for him. I don't know how he would have gotten out of Dodger Stadium, but he gets the save, his 27th of the season. He strikes out the side. And for Kenley, I noticed this, and I think he talked about it following the game, or maybe Dave Roberts talked about it following the game. His velocity definitely had a little increase to it, which I'm not shocked, because bases loaded situation against the Yankees, you're trying to win the game. I would expect the velocity to be a little higher, but he looked, aside from those first few batters he allowed to reach base, those final 2 batters, that looked like the Kenley of old. That looked like the Kenley where you would go in and he would lock down 1, 2, 3, and you would have no questions asked in regards to his reliability. So Kenley Jansen, I'm going to throw out the first half of that 9th inning and just forget about it, and I'm going to remember that second half where he had the bases loaded, he got those 2 strikeouts, and he got the job done. So overall, a very good pitching performance from the Dodgers all around. The offense was quiet, only had 6 hits again, only 2 runs. Justin Turner hit a 2-run home run, so luckily for them, that was all they needed, but great outing from the pitching all around. Moving on now to the final game of the series, Clayton Kershaw, to no surprise, was great yet again. He went 7 innings, struck out 12, allowed only 3 walks. He's now thrown at least 6 innings in every start this season. I believe he's at 23 now on the season, which is incredible. It's the most he's done in his career, so Clayton Kershaw continues to impress this season. But he did allow 3 solo home runs. I think it was only the 7th time in his career he's allowed 3 home runs. So for Kershaw, I think this year he's allowed 21 home runs on the year, which is the second most he's ever allowed in his career. So he's allowing those home runs more frequently, but it was too much for the Dodgers to overcome. Jock Peterson led the game off with a home run, and that was the only offense the rest of the game. The rest of the game, they had no runs. They only had 4 hits. Max Muncy followed the home run with a double. So if you were to take the next 27 outs into account, the Dodgers only had 3 hits. So yet again, the offense went quiet. They couldn't give Kershaw the run support he needed. And overall, it wrapped up a 3-game series with the Yankees where the offense just couldn't get anything going. I think total, they only had something like maybe 15 hits in the 3 games. Like I mentioned, hitting with runners in scoring position, they were awful with. And overall, it was just a very forgetful performance from the offense in that 3-game set. Now, as I mentioned earlier as well, Dodgers Twitter and Dodgers fans everywhere were, pretty worried following this series. They were saying the Dodgers now have no chance, let alone beating the Yankees in the World Series, but now let alone getting to the World Series. Everyone was worried that the Dodgers are showing their true colors, that they're not as good as they really are, and everyone is just overreacting. I am not one bit concerned about the Dodgers, first off, getting to the World Series, but playing the Yankees at all. I mean, it was a 3-game series. The offense went very quiet, but offenses go through slumps. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. You're not going to be able to score 5 runs every game. You're going to have games where you're going to have games where the offense just can't get it going at the plate. Now, instead of looking at the negatives, I like to look at the positives. Aside from Hyunjin's outing, pretty much the pitching all across the board was really good the entire series. Every starter, every reliever that pitched, really, I thought, impressed. I thought everyone looked good. So I don't think there's any need for the Dodgers to be worried. If they were able to face the Yankees in the World Series, I would still take the Dodgers to win the series because it's a 7-game series. Anything can happen. Then the Dodgers have experience in the World Series, whereas this Yankees team, it's going to be a bunch of guys that have never been in the World Series before, especially if the Dodgers can get home field advantage, which will give them that bonus as well. And I think the Dodgers, should they get to the World Series, the offense isn't going to be scoring 2 runs a game. I think we're going to see more from the offense as well. So I don't think there's any reason to overreact. I think the Dodgers are going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine in October. And like I said, if the Dodgers are able to face the Yankees in the World Series, anything can happen in a 7-game series, which, the Dodgers, they could have swept this 3-game series against the Yankees, and everyone would have been saying, oh, we own the Yankees number, we're not scared for the Yankees whatsoever, and come October, the Yankees could come out and they could sweep the Dodgers in a 4-game series. So whatever happens in the regular season means absolutely nothing. I mean, what was it, a few seasons ago when the Dodgers lost to the D-backs in September, and everyone was freaking out, oh, when the Dodgers play the D-backs in the postseason, they're going to be outmatched, it's not going to look good. And what happened in October? The Dodgers swept the D-backs. So, as I mentioned, the regular season, it's great to see a little sample size. I'm glad we were able to see the Dodgers play the Yankees for 3 and see what happens. Now, of course, I would have loved to see them sweep them. I thought that would have been fantastic, but yeah, there's no reason to overreact. The Dodgers are going to be fine, and I think in October they're going to be fine as well. But if anything, this just showed that a Dodgers-Yankees World Series would be phenomenal. I mean, we haven't seen the Dodgers play the Yankees in, 4 decades now in the World Series? That's how long it's been. So I've never personally seen a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. I would love to. I think baseball would love to. I think it would be probably the most watched World Series over who knows how long. But it would be great. The rivalry is still going strong, which I'm great to see. Because for me especially, growing up, I've never really had any Dodger-Yankee rivalry moments. I mean, they've only played each other a handful of times, in my lifetime. So this was a really cool series to see. I would love to see the Dodgers play the Yankees in the World Series. However, I am kind of standoffish with the idea, mainly because of the fact that if the Dodgers play the Yankees in the World Series, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a credential to go to the World Series, because apparently this weekend, True Blue LA couldn't even get any credentials for the series because there was so much New York media there. So if we couldn't get a credential for a regular season series, I doubt that we're able to get one for the World Series. So I would like to see the Dodgers play the Yankees in the World Series, but if that means I can't get a credential, I'm rooting for the Twins, the Astros, the Indians, one of those teams to make it to the World Series. So hopefully I can go and cover it. But overall, a very fun series. Very disappointing that they lost 2 out of 3, but as I mentioned, it means nothing. It was cool to see the Dodgers play the Yankees. Alright, we're going to move over to Twitter now, where I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on Twitter at BlakeHarrisTBLA, where in the next podcast, you can potentially ask a question that I can answer. A lot of good stuff, usually, so let's see what we got this week. Should we start experimenting with different pitchers pitching in the 9th, or hope Kenley will figure it out? Now, this is one of those tough questions where a lot of Dodger fans are split on. I personally don't think we're ever going to see Kenley not pitch the 9th. One, because, the Dodgers are paying him to be their closer. Kenley Jansen is their closer. And as much, as scrutiny as he's faced this year, his numbers aren't awful. Now, by his standards, it's like the worst season of his career. But his ERA is still at about 3.5. He's still among the top of the leaderboards in saves in the National League. And I think for the most part, he's still the guy that you want to have in the 9th inning. Now, I know Joe Kelly has been really good over the last few and a half months, but I still think his best role is pitching that 8th inning as a setup man to Kenley. I can't see them giving Pedro Baez the ninth inning. I can't really see them giving Julio the ninth inning. I mean, I think really the only other option you could have for the ninth would be Joe Kelly, but I don't think that Dave Roberts would really do that. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, come the playoffs, they might bring in Kenley to pitch, like, the 7th and 8th if they really need him, and then go with, like, Joe Kelly in the ninth. But I think for the rest of the season, and including the playoffs, it's Kenley Jansen's ninth inning. I don't think he's done anything to lose it. Yes, I think he struggled this season, and, he hasn't been himself, but I don't necessarily think that it's worthy of him completely losing the ninth inning. Would they bring up Gavin Lux for September call-ups? Now, this is kind of one of the hottest topics right now, and it's kind of weird to me that it's not like set in stone or 100% confirmed that Gavin Lux is going to be up in September. Now, they might bring him up and have him like sit in the dugout and have him just gain that professional big league experience. But I'm not entirely certain that the Dodgers are going to activate him and have him play any games in September. He's currently not on the 40-man roster, so there's going to be some moves that have to be made for that. But with how many players the Dodgers have, I just don't know necessarily if they have room for him to play. I don't know if they have room for him come October, because if he's going to be on the big league team in October, that means either like a Kike Hernandez, a Chris Taylor, or like a Jock Peterson is going to have to be inactive, which I don't think is going to be the case at all. I would absolutely love Gavin Lux to be with the team in September. I'd love to see him get some playing time. I'd love to see him in October to see if he can do anything offensively that would help the team, but I just think right now, for this season, there's no room for him, which is fine because I think the Dodgers are going to be fine without him. As I mentioned, I'd love to see him called up. I'd love to see what he can do, to see if he can potentially help the team, but I don't think the Dodgers are necessarily looking at that right now. I don't think they're too concerned with getting him playing time right now. As I mentioned, I wouldn't be shocked if he's up, at least getting experience in the dugout, but I personally don't think that he's going to be activated in September. What does the starting rotation in October look like if everyone is healthy? I think this is something that we're not even going to know until October. I mean, you have the 3 guaranteed guys. You got Kershaw, Ryu, and Buehler. Those are the 3 guys, which leaves a 4th starter, which I still am unsure about. The Dodgers, I feel like, are unsure about. If Rich Hill is fully healthy, I would fully expect him to be that 4th starter. Now, I would expect them to probably limit his innings still, or they'd maybe start him 3 to 4 innings and then turn it over to the bullpen. But I'm not sure if Rich Hill's going to have enough time to build up his arm, or he's going to be able to go 3 or 4 or maybe 5 innings. So if Rich Hill is fully not healthy, my guess would be they might go with like Dustin May and Julio Urias to each go 3 innings, maybe have Rich Hill then follow with 3 innings. So I think either way, Rich Hill is going to be involved with that 4th start. It's just a matter of, is he going to be starting the game, or is he going to be coming in to pitch a few innings out of the bullpen? Can Bellinger find himself in time for the playoffs? Now, Cody Bellinger quietly has been really struggling as of late. I mean, over his last 35 games, he's hitting only .226 with an .817 OPS, which is, really down from his first few months where he was hitting .400. Now, I wasn't expecting him to hit .400 the rest of the season, but the fact that, for the last month and a half, he's been hitting .226, that's, very discouraging. And the numbers even go back to the end of June. If you go back to June 28th, which has been almost exactly 2 months, he's hitting only .238. So the fact that over the last 2 months, Cody Bellinger's been hitting only .238, I think that's pretty concerning. I mean, for the month of August, he's hitting only .226. I mean, his OPS is still high at .873 because he does have 8 home runs, 20 RBIs, but I've been concerned with Cody Bellinger at the plate, especially as of late. I mean, going back to that Toronto series, I mean, it's only been 6 games, but he's 2 for his last 21, and he has just not looked good at the plate. But we're kind of seeing the Cody Bellinger of like the past World Series where he looks completely lost at the plate. Now, I'm not saying he's lost there, but something's different. Something's different from what he's doing at the plate now than what he was doing even a month ago. I mean, like I said, everyone goes through slumps, teams go through slumps, players go through slumps, but as I mentioned, over the last 2 months, he's hitting only .238. The home runs have been there, which is still good, but for Cody Bellinger, his hitting has definitely taken a hit for the second half of the season. I'm still not too concerned because, as we saw in the first half, he still has the capability to be a really good hitter, and I think this is just a really bad slump. I mean, as I mentioned, you can't hit .400 for the entire season, so the fact that he was able to hit .400 for 2 months, he's been a below-average hitter the rest of the season, but I think he'll figure things out. I hope he'll figure things out for the rest of the season and come October. Is this Jock's last season in blue, last year of arbitration coming up, and a free agent after next season? Seems like he's primed to get traded. I think that this is Jock Peterson's last season as a Dodger. It's been a struggle for him this season. Yes, he does have 26 home runs. Yes, he does have an OPS of over 800, but he's hitting only .231, and he has just been struggling as of late. I mean, Jock Peterson has really been struggling over the last 2 months. Over his last 42 games, he's hitting only .198, has an OPS of .659. I mean, he only has 24 hits in 136 plate appearances, so he's really struggled the last month and a half. And, I mean, he's essentially unplayable against lefties. He's only good to hit against righties. His defense has taken a hit over the last few years. I just don't see there being any room for him because I think moving forward, Cody Bellinger, Alex Verdugo, and A.J. Pollock, those are going to be your 3 outfielders moving forward. And then you got guys in the farm like DJ Peters, Edwin Rios, guys that can play the outfield as well that will be very good bench pieces. So Jock Peterson, I think this is going to be his final season. I'm not sure what his trade value is, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the Dodgers trade him to some team that... there's a lot of teams out there that can use a power-hitting outfielder. I mean, Jock Peterson's by no means, a below-average major leaguer. I mean, the fact that you can hit 30 home runs, have an OPS of over 800 on a consistent year-to-year basis is impressive, but I just don't think moving forward there's any room for him on this team. Come October, I don't really see there being any room for him on this team with everyone being healthy. I think he'll probably be a bench guy where you're going to call him off the bench with the hopes that he can hit a home run. But in October, like I said, if Verdugo's going to be healthy, with Pollock and Bellinger there, and with Kike and Chris Taylor being able to play the outfield, I just don't see any room for Jock Peterson on this team moving forward. But yeah, that does wrap up the Q&A as well as this episode of Thinking Blue. Thank you to everyone that asked me a question. If you'd like to ask me a question in the future, as I mentioned, go over to Twitter, follow me, @BlakeHarrisTBLA, ask me a question, and I'll try to get to it in a future episode. But yeah, so if you guys haven't already... But as I mentioned, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment below if you're concerned with the Dodgers, what your thoughts are with the Dodgers, if you're worried for them moving forward, or if you think this is just an offensive slump and there's nothing to be concerned about. But leave any comment down below. I love interacting with you guys in the comments, as well as interacting with you guys on Twitter with all the tweets. Again, my Twitter is @BlakeHarrisTBLA. Thank you guys for listening. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe as well and turn on those notifications so you never miss a podcast episode moving forward. This has been Blake Harris, and I will see you guys very soon.